Hello everyone, and welcome to Dota. My name is Toe9021, and in this guide, I'll attempt to explain the basics of Dota 2. Dota 2 is a game that is hard to place in any specific category. It contains some real-time strategy elements and some mechanics from role-playing games, but there's way more to it than that. It's an immensely complex game, with tons of mechanics which are meant to give it depth and make every match unique and entertaining. And it totally nails it. If you know what you're doing, Dota can become an amazingly fun game that will never bore you. This happens because the game gives its players so many options that it is impossible to come across the same situation twice. That said, this does create a problem. While the game is constantly altered and improved to make more and more playstyles viable, it does this by adding more mechanics that new players have to learn. So, even getting a basic grasp of how the game works takes a whole lot of time and dedication, making the whole thing very frustrating. Fear not, in these short videos I'll reveal Dota's mechanics to you and show you the way to victory. First off, what is Dota? Dota is a game played on a square map, split into two separate sides by a river flowing diagonally across its center, starting roughly from the top left to the bottom right corner. Each side belongs to a faction. The bottom left side belongs to the Radiant, and the top right side belongs to the Dire. Both factions have bases, which start from the fountains, located in the bottom left and top right corners respectively, with a round border wall split by 3 staircases leading up to the base. At the heart of each team's base, directly in front of the fountain, you'll find the Ancient, a towering circular structure. The game's ultimate objective is to destroy the opposing team's Ancient, and that is why the game is called Dota, an acronym that stands for Defense of the Ancients. The fact it's called Defense of the Ancients and not, say, Attack on Ancient is backed up by various mechanics that award good defensive maneuvers over offensive ones, but more on that later. The lanes are another main characteristic of the Dota map. Essentially, they are walkways, paths that begin from one team's base and lead to the others. There are 3 lanes. One begins from the Dire base's leftmost staircase, reaches the top left corner of the map, and then turns toward the Radiant base, up until its topmost staircase. This lane is called Top Lane. The symmetric counterpart of the top lane is the bottom lane, starting from the rightmost staircase on the Radiant side, reaching the bottom right corner of the map, then making a turn towards the Dire base, ending at its bottommost staircase. Finally, the middle lane, or mid lane, begins from the Radiant side's middle staircase and goes straight to the Dire base's middle staircase. This lane directly crosses the river, and each side has a staircase leading into it. Each of these 3 lanes is split by 3 towers, structures that protect the base from harm. There's one behind each base's staircase, the Tier 3 tower, one a bit further into each lane, the Tier 2 tower, and one near the edge of each team's side, the Tier 1 tower. Tier 2 towers are weaker than Tier 3, and Tier 1 towers are the weakest of them all. The only way one team can breach the other's base is to destroy all 3 towers of any single lane, in order, starting from the Tier 1, working their way towards the 3rd tier. Each Tier 2 tower cannot be attacked until its respective Tier 1 tower is destroyed, and so on. Once the Tier 3 tower of any lane is destroyed, the Ancient has one final way to protect itself. 2 Tier 4 towers in front of it. Once these 2 towers are also taken down, the Ancient can be directly attacked. And once the Ancient is destroyed, the team who killed it wins. Once any game of Dota begins, little creatures spawn behind the Tier 3 towers on every lane. These creatures are called creeps. These little guys walk on a set path along the middle of each lane, and only stop when they encounter enemies to attack them. Now, since each side spawns creeps at the same time, the 2 creep groups, or waves, meet at around the middle point of every lane. Each initial creep wave contains 3 melee creeps, who attack up close with their swords, and 1 ranged creep, who can attack from a set distance farther away. Every 30 seconds, a new team of creeps spawns from each lane. As the game goes on, the creep waves increase in strength and numbers. Once the Tier 3 tower of a lane is destroyed, the 2 round structures behind it become vulnerable. These are the barracks. One of them is for melee creeps, the other for ranged creeps. Destroying the melee and ranged barracks buffs your side's creeps on the same lane, turning them into super creeps. Think of it as a signature of your side's domination of that lane. Enemy creeps will still spawn, but will quickly die to your super creeps, leaving the enemy base constantly open to attack. If all of the enemy barracks are destroyed, your side's creeps turn into mega creeps, which are near impossible to kill, and the game is pretty much ended at that point. However, since each side's creeps behave in exactly the same manner, the game should always end in a tie, right? Well, no. And that's where you come in. Every team has 5 real-world players who play as heroes, unique, colorful characters with various strengths and weaknesses. Your task as a player is to use each hero's abilities as best as you can, cooperate with your team, gain momentum, and use that momentum to win the game. Each player can select one hero to play as, out of an existing pool of 112 heroes, with more to come soon. This is one of the main reasons Dota and games like it are considered very difficult to learn. Every hero is special in some way, and some specific hero examples have additional mechanics that are unique to them, and take a long time to explain, something which makes learning this game a daunting prospect for new players. But don't worry, it won't take that long to learn the basics, and soon you'll be able to play the game by yourself and figure things out on your own. Okay, so let's remember what we've learned so far. The main objective is to destroy the Ancient. To do this, you first have to destroy the towers protecting it, and the main tools at your disposal are creeps and heroes. The creeps are controlled by the computer, the heroes are controlled by real-world players, and each player picks a single hero to play as. Alright, now take a deep breath, and let's load into a game. I'll be playing as one of my favorite heroes, Drow Ranger. She is a good pick for new players because she has simple mechanics and is easy to play. So, here we are in the Radiant Team's Fountain. The fountain is where the heroes of each side spawn when the game begins, and where they respawn after death. For now, we're going to stay here in the fountain and look at the options available on the screen. The hero I'm playing as, Drow Ranger, is here in the center of the screen, this blue archer lady. You move around the map by right-clicking a location on it once, then these little green arrows pop up, and Drow Ranger walks to the location. While she's walking, you can change her path by right-clicking somewhere else. You can also right-click things on the map, and your hero will walk toward them. If you right-click enemy heroes, creeps, and towers, Drow Ranger will start attacking them. You can select things by left-clicking on them, and that gives you important information about them. So I'll just move the camera a bit, moving my mouse pointer to the edge of the screen to look at other things. This type of camera movement is called edge pan. You can find it in advanced options. I would definitely recommend using it for now. You can also use the arrow keys to move the camera. Let's go to the enemy base. Ooh, spooky. Everything is all dark here because we don't have vision of it. We gain vision of enemy units and objectives by having one of our team's units near them. Here, I'll show you what I mean. I've used cheats to bring one of my team's creeps into the enemy base. You can now see a bright circle around him. That area is now visible by your entire team. Heroes and buildings also give shared vision of a circular area around them. The vision range of heroes actually changes based on an in-game day-night cycle. Each in-game day lasts for 8 real-world minutes, 4 minutes of daytime and 4 minutes of nighttime. During the night, vision is extremely limited, and it is much easier to move around the map undetected. For most heroes, this mechanic stops there, but for some, the day-night cycle is an integral part of their gameplay. But I digress. Where had we left off? Oh yes, selecting units. Where's my hero? Uh-oh, how do I find her? Don't worry, no matter where you're looking on the map, you can always select your hero by pressing F1. And if you double tap it, F1, F1, the camera instantly centers on your hero. A main issue new players always have is finding their hero in a cluster of allies and enemies, but the F1 double tap trick immediately saves you the trouble. You can also select multiple units under your control by left-clicking and dragging, then you can move them all simultaneously. You can also split units under your control into groups, but we'll save that for later. If you want to center the camera on your hero, double-click the hero's portrait, shown here. Now when I move, the camera remains centered on my hero. To toggle this mode off, just move your mouse to the edge of the screen and look elsewhere. That's it for part 1. In the next part, I'll explain laning, hero roles, and stages of the game. See you later.